Hi, this is Dave Travels in Time again, and I'm just going to finish talking about Empire. So basically, the scenes where I left off. So basically, Luke senses a premonition of the future about what's going to happen to them in Cloud City, and he says he has to go there. And Yoda warns him not to go, but of course he doesn't want to listen. He wants to go there immediately. And he's like, and Obi-Wan's like, Luke, be careful. This could lead to the dark side. And he's like, I'll be careful. And of course, he goes to the Cloud City. And of course, to Han Solo, it looks like Lando betrayed them, but it's because Darth Vader and the Imperials already came before them. And basically, they're in a trap. And basically, Han gets sent into Carbonite and sent with Boba Fett to be sent to Jabba. So that happens. And then we have the climactic fight scene in the movie with Luke and Vader. Of course, the classic, iconic scene where they fight. And that's obviously where Luke gets his hand cut off. And then Vader tells him the truth that he is his father. And Luke's like, no, it's not true. It's not possible. And Vader wants him to conquer the galaxy and overthrow the Emperor's father and son. And then Luke jumps. And then Lando and Leia get Luke. And then, Luke's thinking why Obi-Wan never told him and stuff. And then that is basically towards the end of the film. Then he gets a new hand. Luke gets a new hand. And then we have the whole end scene and stuff. And then that leads into, of course, Return of the Jedi, which I guess is set a year after this film. Apparently it's set a year after this film. I don't know. I feel like it would be much sooner than that. To me, makes more sense like it'd be like 6, maybe 5 months after. I don't know. But anyway, timelines can always be a bit confusing with, so anyway. So basically, at this point, we see the opening scene where it shows Darth Vader arriving at the new, Death Star and stuff, and that was pretty interesting, the second Death Star. And this is obviously the first appearance of Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor, even though this is set after the prequels, obviously, and all that stuff. And then we get to see Tatooine again because, C-3PO and R2-D2 go to Jabba's palace, and they're sent there. And then, of course, we get Leia later posing as, like, this bounty hunter. And then Luke comes as well. And then Leia basically is able to get Han out of the carbonite and all that stuff. And so that was pretty cool. This is probably my personal favorite Star Wars film, the Return of the Jedi one. I always had a soft spot for this one. And then, of course, there's the added musical numbers in this, too, because it's a special edition. And this is the one I saw first, interestingly enough, because I was 6 when the movie came out in theaters. The special edition version. Yeah, I don't hate it. I know some people are bothered more by the added musical number at the beginning of the return. But to each their own. And I do like the way the Sarlacc looks in the special edition, I will admit. I do like the way they made it look. And then, of course, we get the first appearance of Luke's green lightsaber that he constructed, which looks a little bit like Obi-Wan's, which actually does kind of look similar to Obi-Wan's lightsaber Obi-Wan had. And I've always been I always thought Luke's green one was probably one of my personal favorite ones. And I do have a toy, of that one. I do have a Hasbro one of that one. And I do like the fight scenes, and then where Leia chokes Jabba, and then bye-bye Jabba the Hutt. That was always fun. And then Luke goes to to see Yoda again. Unfortunately, Yoda is basically he's gonna die, and Luke asks, is Darth Vader his father? And of course, Yoda says, yes, your father it is. And he's like, just a look of shock, like, ugh, I figured this was the truth. And then, of course, and then Yoda dies. And then and then he becomes one with the Force. His body disappears. And then he talks to Obi-Wan. He talks to Obi-Wan a little bit. And he's like, he said Obi-Wan betrayed and murdered my father. He was like, Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force. And once your father became Vader, the good side of him was destroyed. So what I told you was true from a certain point of view. And it looks like a certain point of view. He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. That's what Obi-Wan says to him. And yeah, and then Luke realizes that Leia is his sister. So that there's that whole revelation now. And there's that whole twist. And then we get to see Admiral Akbar. I like Admiral Akbar, as I call him, the fish head. He's like the fish head character. He's got the fish-like appearance and stuff. So they're sent to, basically some are going to be assigned to go to Endor, which includes Han and Leia, and then Luke offers to go with them too. And then the rest will be fighting to get to the Death Star's main reactor, like Lando and stuff, using the Millennium Falcon. Then we get to see the first appearance on Endor with the Ewoks. I like the Ewoks. I always had a soft spot for them. I know some people say, oh, they're too cute, they're annoying, and all that stuff, but I like the Ewoks. And then they think C-3PO is like their god. That was always interesting. And that was always found that interesting. And then of course, Luke tells Leia that he has to meet Vader to save the mission, so he doesn't put the mission in danger. So he voluntarily goes with Vader. And Vader's like, I see you've constructed a new lightsaber. Your skills are complete. Indeed you are powerful as the Emperor has foreseen. And stuff like that. And then they go to see the Emperor. Then he releases his, cuffs or whatever. He was, handcuffed or whatever. And, he just really wants Luke to become the new apprentice and to strike down Vader. And so they have this climactic fight scene with Darth Vader and Luke, and he's trying to egg his son on. He's like, so you have a twin sister now. If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. And then they have the big fight scene, and then he cuts off Vader's arm and stuff, and he's like, the Emperor's all happy and clapping. He's like, good. Now fulfill your destiny and take your father's place at my side. And then Luke refuses to do it. And he's like, never, I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, your highness, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And then, Emperor's like, so be it, Jedi. And then, of course, Vader, saves his son, Anakin, and then, at the very last seconds, right before Luke is basically going to die, courtesy of the Emperor. And then, of course, we hear the controversial no that was added with these newer versions, the 2015 or 2016, whichever one I have right now. And I know that was a controversial addition to it. A lot of people didn't like when Vader said no, but I don't know. I'm mixed on it. Honestly, I don't mind it as much as some people because, yeah, I know. It's basically saying, I don't know, I'm thinking in his head, maybe the reason why he added that is because in his head, he's imagining what happened to Padme, and he didn't want it to happen to his son, so that's why he yells the no thing again. I don't know. Make it what you will. I get how it's controversial, and some people don't like it. And then later, he wants Luke to take his mask off so we can see him with his own eyes, and then we see Sebastian Shaw, who plays Anakin in this, and he says a few brief words. You were right about me and all this stuff. Tell your sister you were right. And then, all that. And then they get off the Death Star, and then they're able to go to the Rain Reactor and destroy the Death Star. And then Luke gets out in time, and then he cremates his father. And then we see the celebration scenes of, all the additions from the special edition that have been added. The chorus god, the Naboo, and these various editions and stuff from special editions now. And I do like the victory celebration music. I really do. I do like the way John Williams helped compose that. I know some people prefer the Yub Nub thing, but I don't know. I feel like it's more emotional. The music with this, with the flute and everything, I get kind of more teary-eyed with it than I do with the Yub Nub one. So I don't know. I feel like it feels more fitting for the final defeat of the Empire and how it affected everybody and caused so much tragedy throughout the galaxy, the Empire. So I don't know. I feel like it's more an emotional music, so I prefer it. That's just my personal opinion. That's just me, So overall, I like Return of the Jedi. I think I'm gonna give that one a 10 because it's my personal favorite one. A New Hope, I give a 9. Empire, I give a 9.8 or something. I get why it's considered the best one, though. So those are my personal rankings for the original trilogy. I hope you enjoyed this review. Take care. Peace. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. Bye. Take care. Peace. Bye for now.